Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US President-elect Joe Biden has warned that people may die if his incoming administration continues to be impeded by incumbent Donald Trump.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Biden said coordination was needed to tackle the coronavirus outbreak. He called President Trump's refusal to acknowledge he lost the election as totally irresponsible, despite calls to do so from both sides. The Trump campaign launched a flurry of legal challenges in the wake of the vote to contest ballot counts. So far, those efforts have failed and no evidence of significant fraud has emerged.
More people may die if we don't coordinate. I am hopeful that the president will be mildly more enlightened before we get to January 20th.
The United Nations have warned the 2-week-long conflict in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region is developing into a full-scale humanitarian crisis. At least 27,000 people have so far fled to neighbouring Sudan, and the UN says its teams there are overwhelmed. Fighting broke out after Ethiopia's government accused of treason the Tigray's People's Liberation Front, which controls the Tigray region, while the TPLF sees the federal government as illegitimate. The conflict has also reportedly killed hundreds, but getting information from the Tigray is hard as there is virtual communications blackout. The UN fears the numbers fleeing Ethiopia may be just a fraction of those forced from their homes by the fighting, but for the moment aid agencies continue to have no access to the region. Hurricane IOTA, considered to be the most violent Atlantic storm in 2020, has made landfall in Nicaragua just 2 weeks after another devastating storm hit. The storm had strengthened at sea to a Category 5 before making landfall with maximum sustained winds of up to 260 kilometers per hour. As it struck Nicaragua, it weakened to a Category 4, but the US National Hurricane Center said it remains extremely dangerous. The agency warned of catastrophic winds, a life-threatening storm surge, and torrential rainfall. There were no immediate reports of casualties. Nicaraguan officials said around 40,000 people have been evacuated from areas in the storm's path. Peru's Congress has elected a new interim president, the country's third head of state, in under a week.
Por nuestro país.
Congressman Francisco Sagasti, a 76-year-old engineer and academic, will lead the country until the presidential election next year. Last week, President Martin Vizcarra was impeached over bribery allegations, which he denies, a move that sparked protests across the country. Mr. Sagasti has taken over from Manuel Merino, the former Speaker of Congress. Mr. Merino had been in the post for less than a week when protesters and politicians called for his resignation, following a violent crackdown on demonstrations against him. Police in Thailand have fired water cannon at protesters who tried to cut their way through razor wire outside Parliament as lawmakers discussed possible changes to the constitution. Protesters are demanding changes to the constitution drawn up by Thailand's former junta and ask for the removal of the Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-o-cha, a former army ruler, with reforms to curb the powers of the monarchy. Lawmakers are discussing several proposals for the ways in which the constitution can be amended, some of which would exclude the possibility of changes to the way the monarchy is treated under the constitution. 3 people have been arrested over a dramatic diamond heist in Germany last year that targeted one of Europe's largest treasure collections. The suspects are accused of stealing more than a dozen diamond-encrusted items from the Dresden Green Vault in the east of the country for an estimated value of over €1 billion. The 3 alleged thieves forced their way into Dresden's Green Vault Museum in November last year, taking off with at least 3 sets of early 18th century jewellery, including diamonds and rubies. The 3 held are believed to be members of a notorious criminal family network based in Berlin. And finally, a Japanese institute has rolled out a robot to ensure that people abide by social distancing measures in a social experiment in a football club shop in Osaka. The robot, dubbed Robuvi, was developed by the Kyoto-based institute ATR and was equipped with 3D sensors and cameras to detect customers who were not following social distancing measures and wearing face masks. The developer expects the shop's customers to be more accepting of being asked by an emotionless robot to obey strict coronavirus measures rather than by a human. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.